So go ahead and let's get to business here. So we had a game. There is no better game for the Ravens ever than to beat the Squealers. I gotta tell you that's that's it. It's always great this year. This was very convincing stuff on Saturday where the Ravens actually beat Pittsburgh 34-17 in M&T Bank Stadium, going into a tie now for the first place in the division. So the Squealers are playing Saturday as well, are playing on Christmas Day as well. We're going to know when we hit the field what the status of that. They have a big one against the Chefs. We're going to go over that one a little bit as well. Ravens going over big time here the last 2 weeks before the playoffs as well. Lamar, the MVP race is not over. I totally agree with you. Look at that. 15 for 23, 207 yards, 3 TDs to 1 pick. Bad throw, I thought, by Lamar. The 1 pick really was covered up by the defender. I think it was Patrick Queen. But really, the defender was blocking his way. He kind of was trusting the guy that there. Bateman didn't see him, didn't keep running the route. Ball was picked off by Mickey Fitzpatrick. That was probably the lone thing with that. Lamar was outstanding in this game. I thought the game plan by Todd Monken and the offense was terrific. Fantastic. You're having trouble. Lamar's having trouble. The only team in the league where really he has trouble getting the edge and beating the edges didn't try that. Stay up the middle. Derrick Henry, run up between the tackles. Perfect. Outstanding game plan. Outstanding stuff. I thought by Lamar, I think his best game against the Squealers here so far. You know, it's a good idea to give it to possibly a future Hall of Famer, Derrick Henry. 24 carries, 162 on the ground. Derrick Henry, let me tell you something. Not for Saquon Barkley's brilliance, this guy would definitely be in the MVP category conversation. I'm sure he's in the conversation for sure. Barkley, I think, is having, an all-time season. But I don't think 2 touchdowns against Pittsburgh. I think he's been fantastic, just absolutely fantastic all season long. Henry, I think, so many teams could have had Derrick Henry in the offseason. If you think about even Lamar, too, nobody really, wasn't a lot of teams really wanting Lamar. A lot of teams saying they were out, Atlanta, etc., out on Lamar. And all these two guys doing are just tearing up the league for a great season, even in spite of the problems. Zay Flowers gets 1,000 yards season for the Ravens. 5 receptions, 100 yards. He's definitely the number one receiver now. No, it's definitely not Mark Andrews. He has a physicality on the field, which is terrific, I think. He's actually throwing guys to the ground. I see a little bit more of that Steve Smith in him, a little more of that Tyreek Hill. You know, not a tall guy, but he's got that physicality to throw guys off of him, to be as physically imposing when guys try to take him down. Tremendous speed, as we know, great route running, great hands as well. I think his hands are very underrated. Definitely you don't see a lot of drops or a lot of bad just with Zay Flowers. Fantastic. This is a John Harbaugh. Gotta love Kyle Van Noy. First of all, he's good in the run game. He sets the edge, which is why he's still in the league. So definitely not known as a great pass rusher. He's having his best season as a pass rusher, 10.5 sacks, getting 1.5 in that last game. Van Noy has been a godsend. I don't know John Harbaugh personally, obviously, but I know he likes a Kyle Van Noy better than he would like a Jadeveon Clowney. Like, freak athlete, fundamentally not as good. Great, kind of runs past the defense. Van Noy stays home, covers his assignment, makes the other guys have theirs. He's always a guy. I've noticed also, too, he's one of the quiet leaders. He's very vocal on the field. So definitely good stuff by Kyle Van Noy. Sierra's husband, Russell Wilson, 22 for 33, 217, 2 TDs, 1 interception. Russell does not do well against the Ravens. I see him with 1 bad pick six every time he plays. Last time I remember when he was in Seattle was Marcus Peters. It was Marlon Humphrey getting him on this one. I don't know how I feel about Russell Lake in Pittsburgh. He's the argument I keep making for him. He's better than what was there before, right? Better than Kenny Pickett, better than Ben Roethlisberger was at the end. But I think about that's all they have. He's good with the deep ball. I think he's going to hurt people with the deep ball. I think that definitely showed without George Pickens in this game, the lack of the deep ball. He was able to throw the ball. I think, decent decision maker, was able to roll out, get some of the edge, make plays out of, but certainly not a Lamar Jackson in terms of special. Najee Harris, I don't get it, Steelers fans. He's a free agent, and I don't think you should waste your time spending big money on this guy. Again, like if this was the 80s, I keep making the point with Najee Harris, if this was the 80s, he'd be an outstanding running back. In football, we had fullback and your running back, he ran most of the time and all that, runs over people, bowling ball. I don't think he's got good speed, not great. He doesn't catch the ball well out of the backfield, and the Ravens usually bottle him up again. 9 carries, 42 yards. He was a little better in the game before this against the Ravens. The Ravens, they already know, like, this guy isn't a well. They have more trouble with Jaylen Warren, who had about 50 yards in this one, but Najee Harris isn't the guy. Calvin Austin, I think he was the biggest recipient of the deep ball from Russell. 4 receptions, 65 yards for him in this one. I think the Steelers don't have great receivers. They don't have a great offense, period. I keep saying that. I'm not saying that just because they're the Squealers and I don't like them. I'm saying that because just looking at the evaluation of it, they don't have offense like that. They have decent coaching, I think. I think they have decent players. Decent is about where they live. When they play a good defense like the Ravens, they're really struggling. Their pass rush, I think, was neutralized by the inside run. Highsmith, I think, had a better day than I think Watt did as well. Watt had the injury, but I think like they pay more attention to Watt. I think Watt, they're shifting 3 guys, and Highsmith, you have to give up something if you're sending 3 guys to the other side. Highsmith had a decent day. He had 1 sack. He created a lot of havoc on the edges, but the Ravens didn't focus on the edges. They knew that their tackles and everything maybe couldn't handle it, so they didn't go there. I thought, though, this was the best game from tackle to tackle that the Ravens had as far as their line, right? They did some things, but the Ravens scored 34 points. I think they held their own well in this one, and I think definitely the Ravens have absolutely put themselves in position to win the division with 2 more weeks. So what happened here? I just think the Steelers are not it. I think despite their record, I think they have some good guys on defense. I think their defense is good. I think they have a strong. It's not real creative, but I don't think you always have to be super creative when you have great players like Wyatt. Fitzpatrick is great. They did have some injuries. Injuries are costing them a bit because we're at the part of the season where injuries are playing a factor for everyone. But the Ravens just have a superior offense. Like you have Lamar, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. Their offense is superior, and they're going to win a lot of these games against the Steelers. Like the Steelers just don't have enough offense to keep up. The defense is good, it's really good, but it's not an all-time defense by any stretch. I think it's the strength of their team, but I think the Steelers have benefited. A lot of close wins. Experienced coach has been in a lot of these situations, but they've won a lot of close games. They've had some wins against teams that aren't very good. Nothing wrong with that, but they're about a decent playoff team. I don't see any deep run for Pittsburgh. The Ravens are definitely more of a dangerous team than the Squealers are. So 34-17, and we got a game on Christmas Day. Used to be the biggest day of the year with my dad when my dad was living to watch NBA. And now the NFL is coming in and showing the NFL on Netflix, the first ever game history in the NFL on Netflix, the biggest streaming service in the world. They paid $150 million, I think, for each game. So just to think about that, $300 million just for the rights to air NFL games. So they are going to go ahead and have this one. Ravens and Texans as well is going on. Ravens are 10-5, 9-6 are the Texans. How do we feel about the Texans? They're obviously have won the division, best team in that division, and not in a real strong division. I'm kind of like with them where it was with the Jaguars last year. I felt like they won the division. They're going to the playoffs, but I feel like I should be expecting more from them. They've had a lot of injuries. Stroud's regressed a bit, and they've had a lot of injuries. But let's take a look at us with that. How about those apples for Lamar? The MVP case, 37, 87, 37 TDs, 4 interceptions as well for Lamar Jackson. Fantastic stuff from not bad from a running back. I don't know what else you could say. I think the biggest case for Josh Allen, I think, is how the Ravens do down the stretch is going to matter. Because the biggest case for Allen is the record of the Bills compared to the Ravens. I think the Bills still might get the number 1 seed based on what happens in the next 2 weeks. But I think the numbers match up for Lamar. There's also a little bit going against with Lamar Jackson because he's won it twice already. So there is a bit of a bias when a guy has won MVP already for a guy that hasn't won it. I think there's a little bit of rooting for that as well. I'm not huge conspiracy theorists on that. I could say us as fans are talking about it in the online and etc. Lamar couldn't care less who wins the MVP. He wants to win Super Bowl at this point. Look at Derrick Henry and those numbers. I think that's 15 TDs for Henry, I think. So I'll go ahead and get that graphic up, but this is out of this world. All the stuff with him wearing out is kind of insane. This guy's the most in shape workout warrior I've ever seen. 278, 1636. I think they were kind of resting him a little bit in the third quarter. They're playing Justice Hill. More of a note, not Derrick Henry. I think we're not going to have Justice Hill in the game tomorrow. So you are going to have Keaton Mitchell back in the lineup with Hill out with that nasty concussion that he had. So we are going to get Keaton Mitchell. But Derrick Henry, we know what he is. He's outstanding. Zay Flowers, question if he's going to play. It looks like he's going to be able to go. 71 receptions. He's got a chance to break the Ravens record for all-time receiving yards still, depending on what he does the last 2 weeks. 4 TDs. Zay Flowers has just been outstanding all season long. I think definitely he's one of the 10 best receivers in the NFL by a lot of people. I have no argument with that. None at all. I think what we've seen is a guy develop right before us as one of the better receivers in the NFL from one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. We talked about Kyle Van Noy. I think the pass rush is for real. I think this guy is play like a Raven all over it. Definitely a guy not paying him a lot of money, over 30, hungry to win a title, does a lot of the little things well. That's what I love about Kyle Van Noy. Not just a guy who's just happenstance. He's perfected his craft. Athletically, is the best guy on the field? Not even close. But is he a guy that understands setting the edge, understands defensive calls, understands quarterbacks? What's the word I want to use? Understands quarterbacks. I guess I can see right there. Understands quarterback tendencies. There you go. Quarterback tendencies, absolutely. So that's what a Kyle Van Noy you're getting from him as far as that goes. So Kyle Van Noy is doing very well there for himself this season. The Texans, CJ Stroud on the field as well. Stroud, I don't think that's right with the interceptions for Stroud here. He's got 19 TDs. I think it's 11 picks. May have to update that. I think it's 11. I think it's 13. No, it's 11. So it's 11 picks for Stroud as well. People are saying it's a bit of a sophomore slump for him. Um, I think the expectation, was high. I think he's still growing as a QB. He's had some issues as well. He's had a lot of injuries at receiver, So definitely keep that in mind. Still a young guy. Made some bad decisions. The protection in Houston isn't great. I think that's, to me, when I'm watching them, the biggest difference for last year, this year, where the line was really, really good. The line not quite as good. Tunzel's good still on the left side, but I don't think they have nearly the level of pressure. I mean, they were getting really blasted in that KC game as well when I was watching that. So their protection is good. Joe Mixon, I think, is maybe one of the most underrated backs in the history of the league. Once again, at 1,000 yards, 11 TDs, outstanding season. Plug him right in. Definite upgrade for the Texans. Definitely a strategy they need to utilize with all their wide receiver injuries and the line issues. I think that's probably the reason, maybe not more from him as well. But they've kind of held it down. I think like having him has been an upgrade for him. They haven't had to worry about their running game all season long. Last man standing is Nico Collins for the Texans. Um, so Nico Collins, 60 receptions, 909, 6 TDs. Collins, I think, has been outstanding for them all season. They're supposed to have this great trio of wide receivers, and they've been banged up a lot. Tank Dell, um, terrible injury last week against the Chefs. He, like a football player, loved it. Caught the ball, he tore his ACL, MCL, couldn't even stand, but he got the feet in, even though he couldn't stand up for the touchdown. Doubtful he plays anymore next year, let alone the rest of this year. Obviously, that's out. But great stuff by Tank Dell, and tremendous catch, though, that well. Stephon Diggs is gone. They actually signed Deontay Johnson for this game. Some people think he's not going to play. I think there's a chance he might play. I think he absolutely wants to be on the field for this one. I think it's all possible, even though he just got there, got picked up on waivers. Interesting to see. Funny how that worked out as well. I think the defense is a bit overstated. What's not overstated is their defensive ends as well. So you got Will Anderson, who was one of the top players in the draft just last year, 10 and a half sacks as well. And you got Daniel Hunter, definitely a free agent that they signed. Their pass rush is terrific. I don't know if you need the same strategy you had against Pittsburgh, maybe kind of keep inside. I doubt it, because I think the Texans are a little less familiar with Lamar. We'll see it. But I think their rush ends are going to be a problem for the Ravens. I think that's probably the biggest strength of them. I don't love their linebacker secondary as much. Stingley is there. Darius Stingley is pretty good. I think their defense overall is decent, solid defense. I think it's like middle of the pack. At top is, but I'm not. I don't fear the Texans defense, but they do have great rush ends. Kind of like the Bengals when they get the defense rolling. They kind of go as far as their pass rush takes them. So their pass rush being an issue. Ronnie Stanley, we're going to X him this week, X Factor. Stanley, I think, has been good this year. He actually probably has worked his way into being the number one free agent at tackle in the NFL. Sunny to say he's been that good this year. Funny enough, I thought this was his worst game last week. I didn't think he played as well as he had been playing as well. But good game by Stanley. I thought he's been solid for most of the year, held himself up well. They needed it. And look, you've had young guys on the other side. Interesting to see what his future is going to hold. But in this one, he's going to have to deal with those two outstanding rush ends that they have in the how you doing? Hello. All right. So, and Mrs. Ravery there interrupting the stream. All right. So, and also to Roquan Smith on there as well. Roquan, I think this would be a good time to see Roquan break it. This would be a good time for Roquan. You got a young quarterback in there for him to go ahead and lead, short practice week, good time for him to go ahead, go forward. Uh, Looking for a good game here from Roquan Smith as well. What do I think happens in this one? Um, I think this is going to be a little closer than you think. I don't know how sharp these two teams are going to be. Frankly, I think there's going to be a lot going on. Lamar says, I don't believe him. He said he's not going to be in the locker room. He's going to be watching Beyonce at halftime. I don't. I think he's just talking. I don't believe that for a second. I do think Ravens do win this game. Uh, I think they win it 28-14. I don't I don't think the Texas firepower is there anymore. I think they have issues on the line. I think the Ravens can exploit it. I do think they have issues in the wide receiver core. I think those are things. I think the Ravens has shown they can handle it as far as the defense has been improved, and they need the game. I think the Texans don't need the game as much as the Ravens do because they're pretty much know it's pretty much decided for them. I mean, they're going to be they've already won their division. They're going to be the fourth seed. The Ravens are still trying to win the division against the Steelers. Big business to take care of. So be interesting to see what happens there. There you go. All right. So we got that squared away. Ravens and Texans on Saturday. I'm sorry, I want to say Sunday. Christmas Day, a Wednesday game. I picked a podcast day to be Wednesday because I figured I almost would never get a Wednesday game. And sure enough, we get a Christmas Day Ravens game to go over. So we're happy to go ahead and get that out of the way as well.